Very abrupt announcement. Deadmines mini set expansion is coming out November 2nd. That's right, half a week away. Amazing.
The Madman!
Well, let's go down the list of all the classes. This time around, they revealed quite a number of cards. They're all the commons. Starting with Crow's Nest Lookout. It's a Demon Hunter 3 mana 2/2, Demon. Battle Cry. Deal 2 damage to left and rightmost enemy minions. If the meta were more about fighting for the board, this would seem like a very efficient card. It's almost like a spell that's kind of like Consecration. Deals 2 damage to 2 things. Or 4 damage to 1 thing if it's the only card. And it gives you a 2/2. But given the possibility that you might be matched up against a deck that has no minions in it, Quest Mage, this may not be the place for the Crow's Nest Lookout. Need for Greed! 5 mana tradable. Draw 3 cards. If drawn this turn, this costs 3. If it just had the if drawn this turn, this costs 3, then meh, you know, sometimes you play it for 3 mana and draw 3. I mean, that's great. Especially with the Quest Demon Hunter being just draw plenty of cards in a turn. With Need for Greed, if it ends up in your opening hand, or if you draw it and you don't want to play it that turn for whatever reason, you can trade it and then draw it again later. Trading it also counts as drawing a card for Final Showdown. And these Quest Demon Hunters right now do run Final Showdown and a bunch of card draw. Feels reasonable that they would put Need for Greed in their deck. In Druid, you've got Druid of the Reef. You had shown people this card 4 years ago. They'd be, whoa! Druid of the Reef, 1 mana, choose 1, transform into a 3/1 shark with Rush, or a 1/3 turtle with Taunt. And you know, that actually doesn't look absurd right about now. What may be absurd, though, is that this is probably going to slot right into one of the top decks of the format, Aggro Druid. It's a nice cheap card in the early game. If you play it as the Taunt, you can protect your cards that really want protecting. Sometimes your opponents would be slow to respond to your Razormane Battle Guard or your Oracle of Elune. Now your Druid of the Reef can actually just play as the Shark and then get rid of cards if you have to play a slow answer to Oracle of Elune. And then suddenly you have 1 mana to deal 6 damage when you have 2 3/1 Sharks with Rush. That's kind of spooky. You probably replace Argent Squire with Druid of the Reef, maybe an Oiotron. In Hunter, we're going to see the first of the Parrot cycle. Hunter's got the Monstrous Parrot. Parrots are a type of minion which repeat something. Very flavorfully fitting. So 4 mana, 3/4 beast, battle cry, repeat the last friendly death rattle that triggered. That's pretty efficient. Problem being that death rattles are a pretty slow thing, especially in the particular meta that we're in. And death rattles are not really being run. This is definitely a card that would see play in a death rattle deck if a death rattle deck were good. And it's possible that they're pushing this rodent nest idea because this plus rodent nest plus the new card Defias Blastfisher. Maybe you have a thing here. 5 mana, 3/2 pirate battle cry, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Repeat for each of your beasts. So you want to have a bunch of beasts out on the board. How do you get a bunch of beasts? Well, you use these rat cards from the expansion that have seen 0 play. And you know what? I think they're still going to see 0 play. Blastfisher can deal 14 damage if you do have 6 beasts in play, though. And it can deal it all to the face, so that is an interesting idea. We'll keep our eye on it, and other beast decks in future expansions. Grey Sage Parrot for Mage. Huge bird. 8 mana, 6/6. Beast, battle cry, repeat the last spell you've cast that costs 5 or more. This reminds me a lot of the Clumsy Courier, which we were baffled by in the United and Stormwind expansion. You get to cheat out the ability of a big spell you have already cast. The problem with that is that's not really cheating in terms of bringing a spell forward. You have to have already cast that big spell, and then you use the 8 mana card to recopy it. And there doesn't seem to be anything ludicrous that you would want to. Furthermore, if you go off of the flavor text of the bird, nothing is more terrifying than a parrot squawking Pyroblast. Yeah, if you copy Pyroblast with that, it's going on a random target. That's probably not very good. Paladin's parrot is Sunwing Squawker. I think this is one of the cooler parrots out there. 4 mana, 3/4 beast. Battle card, repeat the last spell you've cast on a friendly minion on this. What's a deck archetype that casts a bunch of spells on friendly minions. Libram Paladin. You get your Libram of Wisdom or your Hand of Adal on this. In the case of Libram of Wisdom, you're getting a 4/4/5. With Death Rattle, put a Libram of Wisdom in your hand. And in the case of Blessing of Adal, you're getting a 4 mana 5/5 draw card, both of which are rather good. And on the very, very high end, if you get it on Libram of Hope, you've got a 4 mana 3/4 that summons an 8/8 Taunt Divine Shield. There's a possibility that this card ousts Lady Liadrin, if Lady Liadrin perhaps just takes too long to go off. Over in Priest, this is the card that I saw get the most groans when revealed. Amulet of Undying. 3 mana, Priest Shadow spell with tradable. Resurrect one friendly Death Rattle minion. Upgrades when traded. So this is a cool mix and match mechanic. You are encouraged to trade this away in order to grow the power level of the card. Each time you trade away, it'll increase the number of minions you resurrect by 1. Perhaps the problem with this card is, I mean, if you're trading this away as early as you can, which would be perhaps turn 1, you're still not very likely to get it by the time it's your turn 10. And then, like, okay, it's late game, resurrect 2 friendly Death Rattle minions. That's really specific. Death Rattles as well. And there's no control priest to speak of right now, and there's very few Death Rattle minions that are good. It's an interesting card to keep in mind in the future. Maybe this kind of fits into some sort of shadow control deck, but as stands, I don't really see this making much of an impact. Got another cool shadow lover. It's a Defias Leper, 2 mana 3/2 pirate. Battlecry, if you're holding a shadow spell, deal 2 damage. So that's nice and efficient. There is a Shadow Priest deck, which runs Dark Bishop Benedictus and almost exactly 1 shadow spell. It's Raise Dead. So the Defias Leper is currently not very good in that deck because you don't run enough shadow spells, but perhaps with the Amulet of Undying, you run Amulet of Undying in a Dark Bishop Benedictus deck, you put in Defias Leper as some sort of control card, you put in a few more shadow spells to help control things. Could it work? Sure, not in this meta, I think, but there will be eventually some meta which it works in. For Rogue, we've got Blackwater Cutlass. It's a 1 mana 2/2 with tradable, and has an effect after you trade it. After you trade this, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 1. Seems really good on paper. It's a 1 mana 2/2 weapon, like that's already really worth considering. And as an added benefit, you can trade it away if you feel like it's not worth it. Like late in the game, it's a pretty mad draw. Well, it's got tradable, you can just trade it away. And theoretically, it's almost like a net zero trade because you are reducing the cost of a spell in your hand by 1. Now the downside is currently the main archetype of Rogue, and the one that would consider this mainly, is Garrett Rogue. And Garrett Rogue has a few 0 spells in their deck already. And on top of that, with Octobot, their spells could cost 0 already, even without the Cutlass, so you might not be able to reduce the cost of a spell. A good general card, but not entirely sure if it makes the cut. Shaman, Cool Parrot, 3 mana 3/3 beast, Battlecry, repeat the last Battlecry you played. For those of you who haven't kept up with the meta, Bolner Hammerbeak is seeing his rounds around the meta right now, being slotted into the Elemental Shaman deck sometimes, because of all the Battlecries in that deck. So will Brilliant Macaw be as good in that deck? Well, the problem with the Macaw is that the Battlecry targets are random, so it's probably meant for a deck with more specific targeted Battlecries, but still, even copying Kazakis, you would just get a random Golem, which is meh. Basically, in a world where Bolner Hammerbeak is there mostly for stats and mostly because you can't find a better card, I don't think there's enough advantage to be taken of from Brilliant Macaw. No great battle cries to copy quite yet. Warlock has a cool new tradable, Wicked Shipment. 1 mana, tradable, summon 2 1/1 imps, upgrades by 2 when traded. I figure that the upgrades by 2 when traded means that you summon 2 more imps, by the way. It's a really cool flexible card. You can just cast it on 1, get 2 1/1s, that's nice and fair. You can trade it away if you think that's irrelevant, and the card will come back stronger next time. A cool mechanic, I don't think it's that strong. If Zoo were more popular, this card could see play in Zoo because 1 mana to summon 2/1/1s on turn 1. It's a decent play. But that deck is nowhere near, and the card effect just is meh when you're not playing a minion-based deck. Now this card's pretty sweet. 1 mana 2/1 Shadowblade Slinger. Pirate. Battlecry. If you've taken damage this turn, deal that much to an enemy minion. So with a tap, that's basically a 1 mana 2/1 deal 2, or 3 mana 2/1 deal 2 and draw a card. You could play this alongside Raise Dead and deal quite a lot of damage for just 1 mana. So I think this is quite good for the Quest Warlock deck. Warrior's got a cool new control card. Man the Cannons for 2 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion and 1 damage to all other minions. It's kind of like a mini swipe, and it does hit your own stuff, which is a little bit less good than swipe, but for half the cost, you know, I'll take it. It's a great card for control warriors if control warrior was a thing. And again, one of the problems with Man the Cannons is we live in a meta where there are decks out there which basically don't run minions that you want to kill. See Quest Mage. But excellent anti-aggro card. And then the internet is all abuzz over this Defias Cannoneer. 3/3/3 pirate. After your hero attacks, deal 2 damage to a random enemy twice. Note that that's a constant effect, not just a battle cry. So if Cannoneer sticks around and you play a weapon the next turn, or you have another swing of the weapon, this card could deal 8 damage off of just its ability. That's a lot of damage. It's a must kill. So looks like it fits into Pirate Warrior, but you would need to change the deck up a bit. I think you would want to put in more weapons. I think you would want to put in the 1 mana weapon. Bloodsail Deckhand into Whetstone, into Bloodsail Raider, into Defias Cannoneer. That sure seems very tempo-y and quite very scary. Once you do get your quest complete, you do want to summon your Defias Cannoneer with the Juggernaut because you will have a weapon spawned as well, and then your Cannoneer is firing the cannons. Cool. And the last card revealed, it's a neutral 3 mana 2/3, hilariously named Golakka Glutton. As a pirate, she eats beasts and gains +1/+1. So this is an anti-Golakka Crawler card. Came out about, 2 to 3 years too late? Golakka Crawler did actually see play, but I don't suspect that you're going to use the Golakka Gluttons to eat the Golakka Crawlers or the other beasts out there. Probably worth mentioning this card is actually good against Beast Druid, but very difficult to imagine a world where Beast Druid is enough of your matchups that you want to specifically target beasts. So it's a little puzzling why there is an anti-beast card, and also I thought tradable would have been a great, addition to the card, especially since it's 3 mana instead of the 2 mana Golakka Crawler. But hey, there you go. If you find beasts to be too big a problem, and in this set there are several beasts, the parrots, you can run Golakka Glutton. So this is your first look at the Deadmines mini set expansion. I think that the cards with the most impact and the most potential to create new archetypes are going to be the legendary cards, which will be revealed over time in the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled for those.